What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host,
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's going on, STR Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sjogren, here, as always, with my main man and brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani. What's up, E?
My brother, so good to see you. I am back in Boca, as you guys can tell by my usual office and my mic that actually works great, and my Wi-Fi. So life is good. Dude, I love holiday and I love living in the States. You know, there's something about the States that is just completely different. And again, like, some people love it, some people hate it. I'm one of those people that loves it. Like, I got into the Uber heading back from Miami to Boca, and in the Uber, I ordered myself groceries. I ordered sushi. I got home, put my bags inside, showered. And by the time I was done, my sushi was outside, my groceries were outside, and it's just like the level of convenience and the availability of things, man. It's something that, like, I'm always so grateful for when I'm back, because there's the gym 3 minutes away. I'm back to, like, doing my massages, cryotherapy. Everything's close to the house, and you just, like, you realize how spoiled we are here, in a very different way. But again, like, with all the craziness that's going on in the world right now, I am so grateful. You know what I mean? That we're, like, here in safety, and it's super manicured little bubble that it is South Florida as well. So yeah, man, life is good. Congratulations to you and the team.
Yeah, I got the hotel life, man. That was the last month of my life, was absolute insanity.
That was a push.
But I'm seriously considering seeing if I can get guests to sign off on it, and maybe I'll give them a little discount or a credit or something to let us film their reactions when they walk into the themed rooms. Because, like, one of my partners was there right around check-in time, and this couple was checking into the dungeon room, and the guy opened the door, and just like he's like, dude, the look on his face, he was like, holy shit, this is the sickest thing I've ever seen. Like, I want to capture all those on video because they are so cool. Like, there's nothing like that around here.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we can. So we have the boardroom event coming up soon. We're going to be up there. I'm super excited to see that in person. I'm sure Kyle, one of our students in the boardroom, would be happy to volunteer for the circus room. And there'll be a real reaction. But yeah, bro, it's exciting. Yeah, I can't wait to see it in person, bro. I can't wait to, like, just actually, like, see it. Then our boardroom is growing, so I'm very excited for that too. We have a lot of people doing a lot of cool things. And vacation, man, for me, from that perspective too, it's so motivating because you come back and I'm like, okay, how do I go back on vacation for longer while still doing things? So I'm very excited. So life is good, man. But I'm excited for our show today. This was an interesting conversation. I tried to ask as many questions as I could in terms of really understanding, because I think what was so amazing about the show is how far and how much of a company you can build with intention and just having a clear idea of what you're doing and having a great team of people around you, which would be very motivating, because it's, in a way, at a very small scale what we do, right? We help people find the properties, we help them manage it and everything else. It's just with this greater vision behind it and this greater know-how from his previous life and previous experience, you can really see how different execution is. And you realize all of life is really just a game of execution, right? So
yeah, today and we'll introduce him in a second, but we have Paul Kromidas on the show. He's the founder of Summer, and it's a very unique take on, like, a management company that, in a high level, they have two options. Somebody can buy a property and they take it to them and they'll manage it, they'll design it, they'll build it all out, all of that, very traditional. But then they have another model, especially, you know, I see it a cool opportunity for newer folks or folks that kind of, like, want to test out a new market, where, you know, you tell them what you want and what you're looking for and where you want a property, and then they basically help you find that property, but they buy it. You pay them around 15% of the purchase price. They run it for 2 years. You can use it whenever you want. You make little monthly payments to them, and you have 2 years to decide if you want to buy it from them at a predetermined price. So it's like a trial where, you're not making rental income during that time. That's how they're going to make their money. They're basically putting it up and, paying for a lot of the costs and everything else. But they're going to send you P&Ls every month. They're going to review everything with you, show you how it's performing. And if you want, you have the option to just buy it back. They'll apply everything that you put towards it, plus any monthly payments towards that. So it's not like you're losing the money. It's a very, very interesting model. Very well thought through. He's got a diverse background in finance and M&A and some Airbnb experience as well, working with that company. So it was just a very cool conversation. I think you guys are really going to appreciate, whether you decide to work with some or not. I think it's just an eye-opening chat about what are some possibilities when you start to think outside the box. What are the real opportunities that we have in this industry? So without further ado, let's get into the show. Hope you guys enjoy it. So today I am very excited for the show. We've got Mr. Paul Kromidas on, and he is the founder of Summer, which is a very unique and intriguing company that is doing some really cool stuff in the short-term rental space where, it's basically allowing more people to get in the game with a very unique model that I haven't really seen before. So without further ado, Paul, why don't you just kind of give us your background on how you got into this, and then we'll talk a bit about what Summer is, and then maybe some of the inner workings of like how it works. It looks like there's kind of like two different tracks that people can go down, and I want to dive into both of those.
Yeah, Mike and Eve, thanks so much for having me today. It's exactly right. We try to remove all the risk from really getting into this space for a lot of customers and consumers out there, right? And I think that's really, to your point, sort of brought out from, my prior experience and, kind of what I saw going on in the space, right? So, my background was in finance, strategy, operations work, M&A for a while. Eventually that brought me to Airbnb, initially to help them sort of acquire and integrate and build out a company they bought in Montreal, Canada, called Luxury Retreats. And eventually that turned into the Airbnb Luxe product. So I got a nice background and exposure across the different product lines that Airbnb was working on, whether it was Luxe, whether it was Plus, whether it was sort of verified listings, Superhost product, right? There's a lot happening over there. At least certainly was when I was there. And one of the big things that always stood out to me that Airbnb has tried to grapple with for a number of years is, Airbnb is actually a supply constrained platform in some ways. That might sound a little counterintuitive to some of the articles that you hear out there today, right? The Airbnb bust, the Airbnb apocalypse, or whatever you want to call it. I feel like every 2 weeks I hear something else about it. But I think it speaks to our value prop more than anything. It's a little harder than it seems to just like throw some IKEA furniture into a home you bought somewhere and expect to cover your cash, especially with interest rates at 8%, right? And I think it's caused some consternation, fear amongst some folks out there. And I think that's kind of where we slide in. So the data point I always cite for my time at Airbnb, when I say they're supply constrained, they're really quality supply constrained, right? The top 8% of hosts there generated like a 21% bump in RevPAR, something like that, right? And it's really hard to be in that category because you're basically looking at being verified, being a super host, having a real, true, consistent experience time in, time out across that platform, which is really hard for your mom and pop or a couple or a family or whoever it may be, or even some independent operators to do themselves, right? But those folks can command a premium, as you see. And I've got a couple of kids, Mike we were talking about earlier. I'd gladly pay an extra $100 for the guy with 5 stars, 100-something 5-star reviews, and professional photography, all the amenities you're getting, then try to save $100 a night and get someone with a couple pictures that are grainy and some questionable reviews. You just don't want to lose that, and it can wreck a vacation, it can wreck a trip. But it's really hard, like I was going back to, for the people to stand up that supply and be really consistent. You have to pick the right home. You have to design it out in such a way that sort of appeals to a mass audience, right? Like, as much as all of us like to think we've got good design, maybe it doesn't quite appeal to a broad group, right? How are you financing that purchase? How are you pricing it after or managing it? Are you doing it yourself? All of that, right? And I started to think more and more about the consumer value prop that we could create here at Summer. Is there a way in which I can help more and more people who do have a healthy interest in getting into this space, right? 5% of Americans own a vacation, investment, second home, whatever you want to call it. 65% would like to own one. Obviously, I'm surprised it's not 100% would like to own one, but it's a very large gap between those two numbers. And if you can tick up that number from 5 to 6 to 7 to 8%, is there a smarter way to do this? And the reasons most people don't buy them, there are a lot of folks in the middle upper class, for example, who could afford a really nice home that they can vacation at, they can actually make money off of doing it in a really smart way, but they don't buy it because they're risk averse on it. They don't have someone guiding them through the process of picking the right home through data, designing it out, furnishing it in that way, helping them finance it, price it, manage it, actually generate that yield, right? And that's where we come in. That's the consumer value proposition I wanted to create, was a way in which the average person, most people out there, can try to own a vacation home in a smart way that removes the risks and removes the barriers of entry for a lot of people.
So what actually is Summer? What is it that you guys offer?
Yeah. So with that whole spectrum I just said is basically what we offer, right? We let you see around the corner of owning, yielding, spending time in vacation homes, and not just your home, but homes across our network of homes. So, Mike, I'll use you as an example. We'll pick on you here. I don't know if you actually have a bunch of STRs or any STRs, that you want to speak to, but let's pretend you didn't. Where would you be looking to get one? Where would you be looking to get one? Let's pretend you did.
I always love the Orlando area.
Okay. Let's pretend you came to us, complete novice over here. Never done anything with SDRs, no podcast around SDRs, anything. And said, Summer, I'm interested in getting into this. What do I do next? I want to buy in Orlando. First thing we're going to do is we're going to help you find that right asset, right? And you can send us homes that you'd like, but we're going to be out there sourcing through data any home that's coming on the market that fits the parameters for what you're looking for. You give us, broad strokes, right? Everyone's got a price range they're comfortable with. We can pre-qual you as well to sort of shop with us, but basically we're using sort of our that's the secret sauce, if you want to call it that. That's where all of our tech dollars go towards, is really building out what we're kind of calling internally like the Zestimate for short-term rental income around this home on this block in the Orlando area is going to give you or bring you 80 to 120K a year, and that's base, bull, and bear case right in the middle, or base case right in the middle, and bear and bull on the bookends, right? But you're going in already understanding the revenue potential in different types of cycles on a single asset, and we're pulling out a lot of different variables about why that might be, right? Like, hey, this one on this block, Mike, doesn't have a pool. That's going to dock you a little bit in Orlando, right? It's a hot market, literally. You need a pool, and that's going to bring you a certain amount, right? So we're presenting you term sheets on each and every one of these properties we're sending you, and that's getting you more and more comfortable in building your confidence and also building your confidence in the model. And we can actually show you performance on other assets we've done as well. But that's kind of the starting point, right? We're shopping with you. We're finding you the right home. Once you decide on the right home, you have really two paths on how you want to finance that purchase. And this is kind of where the novel, unique side of the model comes in, right? We have something called Gradual Ownership. And Gradual Ownership is a way that lets you actually try this home out before you actually buy it in full. So what we will do in this model is, if you'd like to get into this, we will buy the home for you as Summer, and you put up as little as 15% down on the home. You can start with that, and then you make monthly payments, basically building yourself some cushion to be able to buy the home back whenever you decide over a 2-year period, right? You have up to 2 years to decide if you want to buy the home back from us. Within those 2 years, you can go whenever you want to go to the home with no blackout dates. You can go on Christmas, 4th of July, weekend, whatever you want. You book it out, it's yours. When you're not in the home, we rent it out on Airbnb, Verbo, and our own platform, right? We've also gone direct to customer on that side. And you have up to 2 years to decide if you want to buy it back. If you decide you want to buy it back, we'll take the upfront payment that you made, which I said could be as little as 15%. Sometimes it's more than that. Depends on the home. It depends on the customer. And we add that to your monthly payments that you made along the way, right? Reduce the purchase price by that much. So whether that's 3 months in, 6 months in, or up to 24 months out. If you decide you don't want to buy the home, that's fine too. You can actually walk away at the end of your 2 years with your upfront payment in full, no questions asked. You'll get that 15% or 20% or whatever it might be back at that point. The trade-off that you make for us being able to essentially have an option on a home for 2 years, see how it performs and how it rents out, go to whenever you want to go, is that during that 2 year period, whenever we are the deeded owner of the home and you're renting to own it, trying it out before you actually buy it here, we make the entirety of the short-term rental income on the property. We're sitting you down every month and showing you, Mike, here's how your home did. We just made $8,000 this month on your home when you weren't in it. And that's proving to be a way that we get folks comfortable. We're not just talking the talk by putting these term sheets in front of you with data, put that in air quotes, right? Like a lot of people throw that out there and try to get you comfortable with it. We're actually walking the walk. I'm putting my money on the line. I'll buy you a home and I'll say, look, I think this home's going to make this. We'll go prove it to you. Go stay in this home whenever you want. When you're not there, here's how we're going to go make the money. And we'll show you every month how that home's performing. So you get to walk into this thing completely eyes wide open about what the rental history looks like, how the seasonality plays, where the grocery store is down the street. Like, how much do you learn when you first move into a home and spend any time in the home, right? And after you decide to buy it back, whenever that may be, whether it's 2 months in or 24 months in, or even initially, and that's the other model, right? We were talking about being able to just buy the home outright. We did have some people who said, I love everything you're doing. I've got a mortgage already and I'm ready to go. I have conviction on this asset. I don't actually need to even see around the corner. I think your term sheets are well enough there. I'd like to just go straight off with this, and that's immediate ownership. That's when we have a revenue sharing agreement, like a traditional manager does, right? And we take a portion of the top line, and then you get the rest. So it kind of just inverts itself. You continue to go whenever you want to go with no blackout dates. We rent out the home when you're not there, but now you already know how it works, and you know how this home rents, and you can plan accordingly. And we continue to manage your property and keep it in the summer network. The last thing I'll add, and I think this is a really important one that I constantly undersell. The idea in my head was really born out of trying to get the best of both worlds, right? Like, I thought about, wouldn't it be great if I could own a singular asset, like nothing fractionalized, no timeshare, I've got 2 kids. Like, I don't want to have to go on spring break and compete with every other family who also owns a piece of something for spring break, right? We all know when that same week is for everyone, right? I want to go when I want to go. I want to be able to sell this thing down the line if I want to sell it, right? All those things. But actually make money on it when I'm not there. Oh, and wouldn't it be cool if I also had access to a portfolio of homes? When you take your time in your home, you tell me I whether you own it or I own it, or you're renting to own it, whatever it may be, you tell me you want 40 days a year in your home, or 60 days a year in your home. You can actually take 40 days of that 60 in your home and another 20 at any home throughout the summer network, right? So you could be my home or E's home or anyone else's home. And that's proven to be really cool for a lot of our initial customers, right? So we've got people right now that are just already STR owners who are bringing us their homes and saying, hey, I'm not having great utilization. I don't even need to buy a home. Can I just come bring my home to you all? You can improve it, manage it better, show me how to design some things in a different way, add it to your summer network and your portfolio of homes. Because I also want to continue to take 40 days a year at this home I own right now, but also get 10 days in Miami because I own in Colorado right now. So it's this idea of almost staking it to the network and having that network value grow over time is really exciting to a lot of our current customers as well.
Who is the ideal person for that 2-year trial, I guess, right? Like, I'm assuming it's going to be somebody new that's kind of scared to jump in with both feet. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we'll test this out. If we don't like it, we'll get our deposit back essentially. If we do like it, then we'll buy it out. I'm assuming that's who this is really targeting towards, or maybe somebody that wants to test out a new market or something.
Yeah, I think there's a few different profiles of folks that fit the bill here, right? Luckily, I think it's pretty broad. It's no secret that there's a lot of folks who have interest in this space, in STRs and vacation rentals, et cetera. But I think a lot of folks don't know where to start, right? That's kind of like a catch-all for coming to summer in the first place. Like you're just like, all right, point me in the right direction. Which assets actually do well? How do I think about this? All of that, right? But to your point around who's good for the gradual model, I think it's folks who want to really see around every corner, and meaning like, hey, you're telling me this is going to do this, but it's a lot for me to just go out and get a mortgage right now, jump on this, feel that conviction, that confidence that A, you're the manager for me, or you're going to actually manage this asset really well, or B, the numbers you're putting in front of me are actually correct, or C, I actually like this home. Maybe I've spent a little bit of time in this market, but I haven't been there, for years and years and years, to your point, right? Maybe they've been to the Hamptons a couple of times and they like it, but like it enough to maybe make a purchase and realize they're wasting their money on rentals year in and year out, but maybe aren't so convicted right now that they want to fully go all in on it and then have to deal with reselling it down the line. So I think that's definitely one piece. The other side of it that I think is really interesting, as you kind of drill down in like the economics of the model a bit, are, I think some of the savvier folks will say, I think have figured out that even if you do have intention on buying the home, this is actually a really cost-effective way to do it for both parties, right? Obviously, we make money on the short-term rental side of it during that period as well. That's kind of what we hang our hat on. But when you buy with us in the gradual model, like we're buying it, so we're dealing with all the closing costs. We're dealing with a lot of the furnishing up front. And I think that's something that a lot of people constantly underestimate when they're coming in as a first or second time transactor when it comes to real estate, right? Just how much actually goes. It's like, okay, I bought this home. Now, how am I furnishing it? I'm like, yeah, I have to think about paying for that now too. I got a lot of closing costs. I've got to cut back on the design budget for this home I just bought that I'm going to rent out now, right? We're taking all of that on our plate. And a lot of times when you go to rent a home out year one, if you're just buying it yourself, you might be in the hole because you have to cover a lot of your upfront costs, right? So a lot of people have kind of started on the up and up with that, with the gradual model. And the last thing I'll say is I think a lot of people have also realized that the monthly payment that you're making through the gradual model actually ends up converting back, because when we sell this home back to you, whenever you decide to buy, it's a seller's credit. So we just knock the purchase price down by the amount you've accrued at that point. If you think about that and contrast that to a mortgage payment right now at the same price home, you could be having double the amount go out of your pocket on a mortgage payment every month versus what you're paying summer on a monthly basis, but you're making vastly more equity credit, if you want to call it that, than your principal does the first 3 or 4 or 5 years of a mortgage in this environment. So I think a lot of folks have also caught into that of like, wow, I can see around the corner, I can save my upfront costs. Yes, I'm foregoing a little bit of short-term rental revenue for this period of time, but there's so many trade-offs that work in my favor here. Why would I not go that route to jump on this?
Interesting. So the entire payment, it's not like it's interest that they're paying you guys or whatever. It's like whatever they're paying you, they have the option to get all of that back if they decide to.
Yeah, especially if you're talking about the 15% model, right? Like our goal is not to be an asset owner, right? Like I don't want to go out and own thousands and thousands and thousands of homes. Like the existence of this business, the point of this business is to make more people happy vacation homeowners in a smarter way. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to just offset your costs, right? Owning a whole asset and offsetting your costs, right? So the whole goal of this is building those payments to get you to a point where you actually qualify for a mortgage with some degree of confidence, right? That's why we pre-qual people up front. That's why we check in with you throughout the way around like, hey, here are some mortgage offers, at the 6-month mark or the year 1 mark, right? And here are some folks who are actually going to underwrite that mortgage based on the STR income that we've proven out over this period of time and your creditworthiness, right? So like all of this is geared around getting you to be the owner of the home, a happy owner of the home, that you can now see how this has been performing with years of tail, how this is, what your mortgage looks like, all of that, and just building you into a smarter way on that. So yeah, like the 15%, for example, we're trying to really get you up to, 20% or something like that over that period of time. So you have an easier time qualifying for that mortgage. So that's why I said, it really depends on the asset, right? Because some people we might have to start at 20% because of, whether it's the asset needs a little bit more on the rental side to actually qualify for a mortgage, or there's your credit worthiness needs a little bit more there as well, right? So we kind of take we take a pass at that up front. I'm not going to claim to be, as robust as Wells Fargo or JP Morgan is in terms of qualifying people for mortgages right now. We're not a lender, all the disclaimers. But we certainly do take a look at your creditworthiness because we want to make sure you're off ramping into being a happy owner.
It's a very unique model. Very
I
unique.
have lots of questions. It's interesting.
Go ahead. I've been hogging the mic, so you go now.
No, so my thing, one of the first things that I want to understand is you say we a lot, right? So who's we? Like, what does that look like? Because also, like, in understanding any market, right? All my little bells are going off. I'm like, okay, so if you go into any market, you're gonna need a decent amount of people, right? So what does that look like in terms of we, and how does a company as young as yours grow and explode across so many markets?
Yeah,
just walk us through that, like your team side and everything else.
That's a great note and awareness. I do say we a lot because we have it's not me, it's the team, right? We have a great team here. I guess I'll pat myself on the back and say that we brought on some good folks, and a lot of that has to do with some of what I was looking for. But we've got a really seasoned team. I would say I think that stands out if you check us out. And a lot of our profiles across the various functions. A lot of we're a startup, but we're in the sense that we haven't been around for a decade, and we are a venture-backed company. I think in this space, whether you're in real estate or short-term rentals, et cetera, this is real money. This is real consumers' money. These are real assets. You need some folks with some seasoning, right? So we have, my CFO, for example, was managing director at JP Morgan in structured credit for 20-something years, right? My head of operations has been a head of operations at probably 3 other short-term rental companies, as well as was at Hilton for a long time, right? Like expert in hospitality and so on and so forth, right? I think we look for people that have deep experience in this space. One, because, I think it enables a degree of trust with our customers when you're coming in the funnel. It's like, no, not just talking to some 22-year-old who thought STRs were pretty cool and like graduated yesterday, right? These people have been doing this for a while, and they've seen the good and they've seen the bad. They've seen where other companies have maybe made some mistakes. And I think in this market right now where, accessibility to capital is at its lowest point in a long time, everyone from capital allocators to consumers are trying to make, smarter decisions about where to deploy their money. And, if you're looking at buying real estate or investing in T-bills or, whatever it may be, we've got to give you a compelling reason why you should trust us and why we can get the most out of your home, whether you're buying it up front or you're bringing us your short-term rental or whatever. And I think our team does that, which I'm very pleased about. So we have 20, as of today, we have 26 full-time employees at Summer, hopefully growing very soon. We wrapped another round of funding just a couple of months ago. So it closed close to $20 million in equity and around $50 million in debt to grow the business, which obviously is exciting thing in this economy, but comes with some expectations on how we want to grow. And to your point, we're operating in at least traditionally over the first few years, we'd operated in 6 markets throughout the country and really got, I think, especially good in those markets. If you see what we're doing in some of our homes in the Hudson Valley, for example, we've had a lot of residents in that market, places like the Hamptons, et cetera. But now we're looking to expand out. And I think one of the ways we do that is by really running a central ops team here, but having some great, well-placed folks in the field and building some degree of density around where we want to go next, right? So we do look at homes in other markets throughout the country. We're looking to expand, especially more out in the West Coast, I think, as we move forward now. But when I'm looking at moving into a new market, we do a full, top to bottom analysis. 1, how friendly is that market to SDRs? 2, how saturated is that market to date, right? What can you actually get in that market? What's the availability of vendors and whatnot, so on and so forth. So, I'm happy to go through more details on the vetting process or some of the markets we're thinking about. But, we also want to grow the team responsibly. And, I think long gone are the days of getting ahead of your skis, spending a bunch of money on growth and going back to the market to get 40 million more. You've got to make the most of what you have. Fortunately, I think we've got enough to do that.
Yeah. No, and I love that you said that. And that was kind of one of the questions that I had in the back of my mind is, as you do a raise, how do you allocate money based on what you're trying to do, right? Because again, like it's super fascinating to me to have this kind of conversations, because coming from a place of money is not infinite, and a race car has so many components.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where do you go? Do you go into the engine? Do you go into the interior? Like, where are you spending your money? So I would love for you to talk about that, and maybe even giving folks like an idea of like, as you grew, where did the majority of the money go at the beginning, and now you see now a change into other sides of the business and maybe got under invested in the beginning, and now you're like, okay, now that we got size, we're switching.
Yeah, that's a great question. You should come back to me in another year on that. I feel like,
I'll try to remember. I don't remember what I had for lunch, but I'll try to remember to come back a year from now.
No, it's this is I'm a first time founder, not a first time operator, but a first time founder, and I think whether it's me or the company or people within the company, like, you grow, your thinking grows, your company grows, you learn lessons along the way, right? And I think it's really prudent that you bring it up. We have a interesting structure when it comes to capital in the business. I mentioned the close to 20 million of equity, the 50 million of debt. There's also, we've had conversations in the past around like propco equity. I don't know if that's something you both have dug in on before, but that's a market that's out there as well. But it doesn't necessarily make it easier when you're running a company like this, but you have to be siphoning off the capital of the specific use cases. Your venture investors who are putting money into your operating company via equity capital do not want you to use that money to buy real estate, right? Like, that's not the return profile they're looking for in their capital. Your debt partners that are lending you money to buy that real estate aren't going to let you use that money to pay your engineers' salaries, right? Like, that's clearly not that use of capital, right? And we don't have propco equity today. It's something we'd like to explore in the near future, given what we're seeing, with some of our home performance. But those folks are people who actually would like to invest in the equity component of the homes themselves, right? They don't want to lend to that. They actually want to own pieces of that, in some cases, the entirety of it. So you kind of have to be thinking about fundraising from all of these different capital allocators, and be ready for those markets when they open up or when they shut, right? Real estate's in a tough spot right now. I think some of the commercial stuff that's happening is kind of having contagion into some of the other sectors, at least in terms of folks' hesitancy to deploy capital into the assets themselves, right? So we found the path of least resistance to growth being the debt side and then the equity side. And on the equity side, what I tell people all the time is, like, if we're spending money over there, it's really got to go towards enterprise value, right? And what is enterprise value? In our case, I'm not out there trying to build, I'm not hiring. We are a startup in the sense that we have a technology component. We're not just like a mom and pop property manager in a market. We obviously lean into technology. I told you we're building, this estimate of short-term rental income. We have this model that we've productized and really dug in on. We have a great sort of consumer booking interface, right? But we're trying to build new and differentiated products with the engineers we do have, not just hire an army of, the 26 people I mentioned. They don't have 26 engineers. We've got way more to this business than that. And when you think about, what you want to build, I'm not sitting here building property management software. We use Guesty, for example. Guesty is a great tool. It's off the shelf. I have no qualms about that. And there's a lot of great tools in the space that I think can enable companies like ours to really focus on the differentiated problems we want to tackle. And to your other point of your question, I think when you first raise money and you're trying to get something like this off the ground, it's just a lot of sweat equity like anyone else, right? You got, a few more dollars in your bank account, but I'm no different than anyone else when we first start off, right? So I think when we first thought about deploying that, our first hire is people that could help. My very first hire was our head of design, which is probably not the typical first hire for a lot of companies. But if you see what we do, visually, it's obviously something I feel really personally attached to. My time at Airbnb, I think, taught me that if you're going to come into a space like this, you should be a consumer differentiator as well. They do that really well. And I think that's something we try to lean into as well. We try to be beautiful from a design perspective and really entice people and bring you into the digital and physical experience of the homes. But after that, it was, head of operations, finance folks, acquisitions people, right? Building the guts of the machine, so to speak. One of my investors always talks about building the middle of the machine, right? Can your homes rent? Can they yield? Can they operate well? All of that. And that goes phenomenally well for us. I think as we've seen growth, we've established ourselves with a solid foundation here. Where the dollars now go are towards, I think tech and enterprise value of building out that technology, because that has multiples over years that can make the acquisitions team's lives easier, make our operations team's lives easier, make our sales team's lives easier, right? And faster, and enable more from a consumer perspective. So that's one piece. And then the second piece is obviously marketing and growth that way, right? As we said, long gone are the days where you just heap a bunch of money onto a fire, burn it all in a year and go raise more of it. Like, that's not this business. That's not going to be anyone out there for years, if ever again. But we try to grow responsibly. We have paid marketing. We put out a great commercial a couple months ago that I think's got some nice resonance, right? So growing in a sustainable way, I think, is the other piece where we've seen a shift in some of our spend.
Yeah, that's super cool and super, super interesting. And I love how you explain that. On the gradual home side, because it's super interesting to me, it's some of the questions that I have are, one is, obviously, since you guys technically own it, who gets to make the choices? That's question number one that I have for you. Okay. And question number two that I have for you is, how are you optimizing for your downside? Meaning, where is the price? Is the price set now? Is the price set in the future? Mm-hmm. You have a yield, like you have a delta that you're using, being like, hey, we're going to be between here and here. What does that look like?
Yeah, great questions. I'll take the latter one first. Because I think it's actually a quicker answer. We set the price with you up front. So effectively, if anyone who's listening, comes in and wants to chat with us and takes a look at the paperwork and signs up and whatnot, you're effectively buying an option, right, on the home. We cannot sell this home out from under you for a period of 24 months, so long as you continue to make your monthly payments and so on and so forth, right? Like, it's yours. No one can take that in that sense. We preset the price with you up front. This was, so my background at Airbnb was strategy, operations, and product at my end point. So deep, feelings around consumer and what's best for the customer. I did a lot of user testing when I launched this business. Everyone I asked that same question. I said, if I went into this agreement with you uncapped, didn't set the price in the future, would you do it or not? And a lot of people almost every time said no. Exactly. You're shaking your head. Why? Because no matter, I think a lot of people, if you ask them right now separately, do you think real estate prices are going to drop in the next couple of years? Probably most of your listeners would say, yeah, sure. This whole market's about to fall out or the bottom out or whatever it may be, right? I don't think it's that bad, but certainly we've seen some sky high prices. But the point being, most people don't want to ride the home price appreciation or depreciation wave, right? They'd like to just see what's going to be set in the future and make a decision based off that. And I learned that really quickly by talking to our customers. So we do price in a modest appreciation. So it's typically around 2%. In most of the markets. And we do look at market data around that, right? We try to base that historically. Like, I'm not going to base the appreciation. I mean, some of what happened in 21 was crazy. It's not going to be like a 10% appreciation because no one feels like they're getting closer to actually owning it, right? But we feel like 2% is the right number over a couple of years that I think most people could expect in the average market that something's going to fluctuate. Now, of course, 2 years is 2 years. If your home price is, $1 million now, and, we say it's going to be, 2% more, over 2 years, and then somehow the market bottoms out and it's 500K, I think that's a different conversation. But I have a hard time believing that that's going to be the case, at least. And I think that brings me to the other piece of what we look at before we actually make the purchase decision. It's not just your credit worthiness, but actually the asset itself, right? Like, not every home qualifies for gradual ownership. I should say that explicitly. Like, if the home does not make money, if it's not a good short-term rental investment, I will very clearly tell you that up front. That's part of our value too. Like, I've walked people away from bad purchases. We've shown them the data and they're like, thank you so much for not letting me buy that outright or even renting to own that, right? So, and I don't want to own that asset if you walk away. So the underwriting behind the scenes is really, I've got to be sure that if you walk and I give you your upfront payment back, that I'm comfortable owning that home solely as Summer without you in the mix for, a few months at least, and maybe a year, right? Our goal is to only buy the best assets for gradual ownership that we're sure we're going to cover OPEX, debt service, and make a profit on, right? If you walk away too. And I'm comfortable owning that. And my board isn't looking at me like I'm crazy for owning a couple of short-term rentals in the meantime. But our goal, make no mistake, again, is to get those off. And so if you walk, I'd love to turn around and sell Mike your home, right? Hey, Mike, I've got a home that's turnkey, ready to go. I can send you up there right now for a free weekend on us. Come literally sleep in the home, and I'll show you the last 6 months of performance as well, Mike. And you could buy this thing, tomorrow, right? So I think that's also the value proposition in return is like, if you don't transact on the home and you walk away, I already picked an asset that's yielding the cash that makes me feel comfortable around when and who am I sell that to. And I can turn around and sell that to Mike, even further de-risk, because I've owned it, I've operated it, I've got the rental potential, right? So, and hopefully that's worth something to Mike. On your other question around design, that is a great question. And that is, fortunately, I think in our early crop of folks, I don't think we've had any contentious conversations on this one, right? So I will say that
it's probably coming. I've had those conversations.
I know it's coming.
I'll tell you.
It's coming. It's coming. I know it is. You do hundreds of these, thousands of these potentially one day. It'll happen eventually. But I think most folks, what we try to do is this. We go in and we try to, one, meet with you after you decide you want to do this. So after we close on it, or you've signed the documents, and whether you're buying it outright or you're renting to own it through Gradual, we'll have a sit down with you, your partner, whoever's buying it with you, et cetera, and kind of just get a sense for like who you are, what you're looking for, what kind of usage are you really looking for here. Again, I've got a family. My home might look different or feel different or have different things in it than we've got two younger guys who bought a home together. Younger relative terms, they're like 30, but they bought a home together in Park City, right? Like their place is going to look a little different than me and my wife and kids' place. We kind of learn more about you and what you're looking for and what the spaces you want to create, right? Because part of this is what's going to yield really well for short-term rental, but part of this is creating a home that you actually want to spend some time in and buy and keep as a vacation home that gets you some nice memories with your loved ones. So we'll go back, and after hearing that initial conversation with you, that's kind of the time of like, yeah, I'm looking to do this, or I really don't want this, or I'm really interested in adding a hot tub, whatever that might be, right? We'll come back and kind of create a mood board for you, like presentation, bunch of slides, kind of thinking through every single room, what we want to do, what the spaces we want to create, right? We also try to think about the locality a little bit. Like, if you're buying a home in the Hamptons, you're not going to decorate it like you decorate a Colorado log cabin, right? Like that should be table stakes again, but you got to talk to people about that and show them examples and why that, goes better here and so on and so forth, right? And that's kind of the time to give us the feedback of like, the feedback we don't probably want is you going line by line and saying like, I don't want these sconces. I found some that aren't $35, they're $26.99. Like that's probably not the level of detail we all want to spend our time going into. You should trust that we're trying to find the best deal for both parties here. But it's the time to say like, look, I really don't like that direction, or I don't like the color blue. And I see we've got a lot of blues in the painting and the couches and whatnot. We should probably try to strike that, right? So we take a round of feedback, and then we go off and execute. Because the other side of this is, we don't want a lot of downtime from the time we buy the home or you buy the home to the time actually getting live, you getting in it and actually renting. And we built up enough of a following and a rapport through our great reviews. And you can check us out on Airbnb, Vrbo, and our platform, complete 5-star reviews almost at this point. Our average lead time from the home going up on a platform like Airbnb to actually first booking is less than 24 hours at this point, which I think is evidence of like how quickly we can start making money for all of us when we get these homes live. So we don't like to have a ton of lead time. So I hope you don't think I'm punting on the answer, but it is a collaborative process. I will ultimately say that if you are going the gradual route, yes, we do own the home for 2 years. So if we're in a big fight over something, which I don't think is going to be the case again, like we are the owners of the home, so we have to make that decision and move forward on something. On the other side, you're buying it outright. It's clearly your home to buy, but I don't know if you're putting up like a giant bear right at the entrance, maybe that's, something we want to talk about, not being the best for short-term rental, right? I'm trying to appeal to humans and rationality a little bit. I think we all talked about that at Airbnb a lot.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, this was a fascinating conversation. I think this is a really cool company that you guys have put together. And make sure you listeners out there head over to gosummer.com, check it out. Any other links or anywhere else people can get in touch with you, Paul, and the team?
Yeah, we got really awesome social channels. Follow us at Start Summering is our handle across X now, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We're also on as well, TikTok, etc. So we got a lot of social content that features our homes and our homeowners. A lot of testimonials, like sort of social proof, talking about the happy customers we actually have. And then, if you want to reach out to our team, obviously you can go to our website, like you said, Mike, gosummer.com.
Love it. Well, the last question that we ask all of our guests is, what is your number one secret to success with short-term rentals?
You're in the hospitality business at the end of the day, right? A lot of people forget that. It sounds like you shouldn't, but you are. You are running a distributed, whether you have 1 or 1,000, you're running a distributed hotel. And you should try to remember that when you're communicating with guests, the experience you provide, everything, right? Because that's what they're comping to. When you shop on Airbnb or any platform, you're thinking to yourself, am I booking this or am I booking the Courtyard Marriott, like in the town, right? You're kind of like weighing that up. You probably want the unique experience and you want something a little more local, which is why you're booking an Airbnb or a short-term rental, right? But, I think a lot of people, for us, for example, like I hate, it's my biggest pet peeve, like the checkouts with a million different instructions of like, bag the trash, place it in this specific spot, do this, do that, do this. I'm like, when I check out of, even the Motel 6, like no one's telling me I can just walk out, leave the key, right? Like that's on us. And we do that at our homes as well, right? Like we've got very baseline instructions. We're not making you strip the sheets or anything like that. Like you're running a hospitality company at the end of the day for everyone out there who's running one of these. So I think that's the secret. Remember that and operate like you are, because that's how at the end of the day, you'll end up getting happy customers and repeat customers and staying in business.
Love it. Love it. Well, Paul, thank you again for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to following your continued journey and seeing what summer has around the corner for you guys. So
likewise.
Appreciate
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. It's great.
All right.
Great
Talk to
meeting you,
everybody
Paul.
soon. See you guys.
Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.